All I want for Christmas this year, besides the Browns somehow making the playoffs, is to reach 16,000 subscribers here on the channel. And we are 148 away. So if you have not subscribed and you're looking for a free Browns YouTube channel, hit that big red button to start today's show. Coming up on today's Cleveland Browns Report by Chat Sports, we're going to run through an interesting, juicy, spicy rumor about Deshaun Watson possibly recruiting DeAndre Hopkins to Cleveland. Also, an NFL insider was asked about Kevin Stefanski's seat and the temperature of it, and we'll give you that answer, but it caught me by surprise, that's for sure, throughout the show, later on in the show. Matthew Peterson here, starting things off with this Instagram post, because this is what society is now. We read way too much into tweets and into Instagram posts and captions and comments and whatnot, but you can see Deshaun Watson posted on Instagram, and DeAndre Hopkins just said, glory. That's it. Good Civil War movie. I don't think that's what he was talking about. Shout out Matthew Broderick. But from that, Browns Twitter, which is, undefeated, took that and ran with it and decided, yeah, this is Deshaun Watson saying, somehow, DeAndre Hopkins, come play in Cleveland. The Cardinals suck. They're going to completely tear everything down and go through a full rebuild. So why don't you get traded to the Browns and we can make an awesome offense? Listen, this is nothing more than an Instagram comment. But, big but coming in. It would be sick if Hopkins did come to Cleveland. I still think he's got plenty left in the tank. He's definitely up there in the age column. Now, we'll run through the reasons why it's very unlikely a trade would happen, but it was around this time 12 months ago, we were led to believe Baker Mayfield is going to stay with the Browns. And then we found out, no, Andrew Berry is a very aggressive GM, and he'll make upgrades. So don't rule anything out with AB. Now, I say it would be sick because look at this offense potentially. Deshaun Watson at quarterback, Nick Chubb in the backfield, Amari Cooper, DeAndre Hopkins, and David Njoku. Guys, that doesn't even have Donovan Peoples-Jones on it. Those are 5 Pro Bowl caliber players. I mean, 5 at least Pro Bowl, some all-pro talent. That offense would be the best in the NFL, and I don't think it's much of a debate. Now, Hopkins, like I said, is getting up there in the age column. He's on the wrong side of 30. But this year alone, he was suspended the first 6 games of the season. He's already up to 713 yards. That's just behind DPJ, who is second on the Browns. So I still think Hopkins, even at his age, has plenty left and would be a fantastic pickup for any competing team in the NFL. So then we come into this problem now of, hey, if you want to make a trade, okay, we have to work through a big logistical issue, which is the contract. And Hopkins got a big contract from the Arizona Cardinals. Now, if he were to be traded before June 1st, which I think is when a trade would happen so Arizona could get draft capital for this upcoming draft, the dead cap hit for AZ, $22.6 million. Now, that's not a small number, but we've also noticed a trend lately. Last 3 or 4 years, the Colts, the Eagles, the Falcons, they'll eat dead money. If they can get a draft pick for it, they don't mind holding on to $22.6 million. Minimal cap savings, 8.1. Now, his contract can A, always be restructured, or B, the Cardinals could agree to eat some of this contract even more so to get a better draft pick back. But that is just the breakdown of his contract. Now we run into maybe kind of the second hurdle for making a DeAndre Hopkins trade happen, which is Cleveland is kind of short big bullets in the chamber when it comes to pulling off another blockbuster trade. I don't think Hopkins goes for a first-round pick. Probably can fetch you a second, at the very least a third, in my opinion. We just saw Chase Claypool get traded to the Bears in November. He went for a second. Now, not the same player. Hopkins much better, but much older, much more expensive. So maybe this is a trade idea here. What about DeAndre Hopkins to the Browns for a third-round pick and a fifth-rounder? Might cost a second, but I do wonder if the value for Hopkins may not be as high as we think it is. I mean, Amari Cooper went for a fifth-round pick, which the Cowboys just got burned on that deal. I don't think that was them setting the market, but I do think it kind of showed, hey, if we're going to take a wide receiver with a huge contract off your books, we're not going to give you a first or second round pick. But we talked about this before on the show. Let me know again. Would you do this D-Hop trade? I think we first talked about this potential trade over a week ago, and I said Browns trade a second. Now I'm going to kind of downgrade it a little bit to a third and a future fifth. Trade or pass? Let me know in the comments section below. Next up on the show, we're going to talk about Kevin Stefanski and his hot seat, what the temperature of his seat is, because a certain NFL insider said Stefanski's seat is warm. And that certain NFL insider is none other than one of the biggest Browns fans out there, Mike Florio, ladies and gentlemen. Pro Football Talk, who, I mean, the dude just lapped up all the Deshaun Watson saga this offseason. Did a Q&A on his Twitter, and someone asked, people are suggesting Stefanski's seat is hot. What temperature would you give it? And Mike said warm to quite warm, which maybe warm I can kind of see coming, but warm to quite warm, it's those last couple words there that caught me off guard, because Florio's pretty well tapped in, right? He kind of knows more so in the front office rumor side of things than the player side of things. So for him to say warm to quite warm, maybe there's a little bit more truth to all these rumors of Stefanski really needs to close out the year well if he wants to stick around. Now, Deshaun Watson today was speaking to the media, and we'll look at that in just a second. And he said a big reason why he picked Cleveland was Kevin Stefanski, which then gets me back to this point. There's a very low chance, in my opinion, that Kevin Stefanski gets fired because Deshaun Watson's only played or will only play 6 games with Stefanski in year 1. I don't see them moving on from KS after 6 games when the guy you just traded heaven and earth for came here in part because of Kevin Stefanski, and now you just fired that coach. It's probably not going to go over well with your brand new shiny toy and car. Now, Deshaun Watson, Hayden Grove does a great job of covering the Browns, tweeting out, said he chose the Browns in large part because of the way that he and Kevin Stefanski were able to talk about football. That's what I was just alluding to. I'll share that quote with you in full in just a second. But first, BetUS, our proud sportsbook partner. They've got an awesome deal for the dog pound. When you go to chatsports.com/bet and use promo code Browns125, well, you're going to get hooked up with some awesome deals, like a 125% deposit bonus. So if you want to put some money down on the Browns this week against the Saints, by all means, do so at BetUS. Let's look at that quote from Deshaun Watson. Most definitely, there is a story out there that I haven't told and I will tell another time. But on that visit, we had an opportunity to be able to talk ball, and just the connection we had. It wasn't even about selling me on Cleveland and what is here. It was mostly just all ball. And him and me had the opportunity to meet and talk about that. See what the future can hold and what we can really do in this system together. That was what I was really excited about, and why I was very high on Cleveland. I'm not saying that Kevin Stefanski is the perfect coach for the Browns, and Kevin Stefanski is an awesome NFL head coach. What I am saying, though, is he's here in 2023. Whether you like that or not, that's 2 separate conversations, right? Debate A is, do you think Kevin Stefanski is a good coach? Debate B is, will Stefanski be the Browns coach in 2023? The 2 are not connected. You know why? Because all really matters is what Jimmy Haslam, D. Haslam, and Andrew Berry think about Kevin Stefanski. So for that reason, whether you like him or not, I believe he is going to be the head coach in 2023. Now, there's a whole other video about whether or not Kevin Stefanski is a good head coach, which I am more of a Kevin Stefanski backer, if you will. I'm definitely not one of his biggest critics out there. I'm definitely not a sheep and go, Kevin Stefanski is perfect and he can do no wrong. He has definitely made some very untimely mistakes and just bad situational decisions in key moments. But at the end of the day, I think Kevin Stefanski's offense kicks ass, and with Deshaun Watson, it's going to be awesome next season, especially closing out the rest of this year as well. All right, moving on here. I want to give a quick shout out right now to Just a Simple Man, who sent in a super thanks on the channel. Really appreciate that. Following the Browns win over the Ravens, Baltimore in the chat. Deshaun Watson looked pretty solid tonight. Still some things to work on, but I'm excited to see what happens the rest of the season. Go Browns. Appreciate the super thanks. Thank you very much. As always, each week we get into Petey's Doghouse. Now, after a win, a lot of good things going around here. So, extended leash, right? The retractable one, that's going to go to John Johnson. He probably played his best game of all of 2022 against the Ravens. Had the forced fumble, had the fumble recovery, and he needs to end the year on a high note if he wants to stick around next year. Extra treats, you got to give it to Joe Woods. This defense, clap it up for Joe. I mean, I've definitely been one of his biggest critics, and I'm definitely not alone in that, but Joe Woods' defense did hold the Ravens to just 3 points. Was it with Tyler Huntley at quarterback? Yeah, but still, 3 points is 3 points. So he also might have broke Justin Tucker. Well, Mike Prefer, too. So shout out to them. And then off the leash, that's Perion Winfrey, right? That's the psycho in your neighborhood who doesn't walk their dog with a leash. And you're like, are you just trying to get your dog killed because you trust them that much? Perion Winfrey, after a rocky start to the year, he had his first sack on Saturday against the Ravens. Really want to see Winfrey end the year on a good trajectory so we can go into this offseason going, we have one guy at defensive tackle. We just need to find 3 more because it's not Togiai, it's not Taven Bryan, and it's probably not Jordan Elliott. All right, now I want to get into some comments of the day. Kind of give back to all of you who interact down in the comment section below. Hayden Fink writing, the 2 biggest parts, 1, the Browns winning out, and 2, the Ravens losing out, are really believable. But some of the rest is going to be tough. So what Hayden's talking about, and we can bring it up too, is the 5-step plan, or the 5-step path, rather, for the Browns to somehow squeak into the playoffs, which looks like this. At least I believe this is the easiest path for Cleveland. They have to win out. That's a must. There's no ifs, ands, nors, or buts about it. Ravens losing out, or the Chargers or the Dolphins. I think the Ravens, with Lamar Jackson being injured, and by the way, he did not practice again today on Wednesday, would be the most likely of those 3 teams to lose out, but it could be any of those 3. You also need Vegas and then Jacksonville or Tennessee to lose 1 game. I mean, all those 3 teams have shown this year they are very capable of folding in key moments, so that's not asking too much. And then you need the Jets and the Patriots to lose 2 out of 3 when, I mean, coincidentally, both those teams are kind of playing their worst football right now. So it's definitely a long path. It's a big parlay, but you're not asking for a whole lot right there. Outside of like the Ravens losing out, all those are not big ass, right? You're not asking for the Chiefs to drop 3 in a row. You're asking for a lot of these teams to continue to play the way they've been playing the last couple of weeks. All right, one more comment of the day. We usually just do one, but I love Steven's comment so much, I wanted to share it with you all here. Okay, hear me out on this one. Can you see a scenario where Baker backs up Joe Burrow in Cincy next year? Baker is, you got producer Coop to chuckle at that. Baker is destined to become a backup. He is learning McVay's system, and it's bad for him. It's not bad for him, and Cincy's coach came from McVay's coaching tree. Yep, Zach Taylor. Just food for thought. It would be an interesting move in the division if it happens. I think Baker, that Thursday night win against the Raiders probably got him a backup gig next year. That's usually how backup jobs work. If you have one good game, it's like, yeah, he gets one more year being a backup. So I'm not really sure where it's going to be. Could be anywhere. Wouldn't put it past me if it is the Bengals and they decide, you know what, just to troll the Browns a little bit, let's bring Baker on. I don't know, Jim. If that happens, the Bengals would have 2 first overall quarterbacks on their roster. Is that an NFL first? I think it's got to be. Someone fact check me. That would be in a top-tier quarterback room. All right. Appreciate all of you guys for tuning into today's show. If you haven't followed me on Twitter yet, hit me up at Matthew Petey. Always talking Brownies, talking NFL over there.